we can certainly create intelligent systems of interconnected devices, and that will have a profound effect on our future as we tap into machine learning. Next slide, please. So what does this mean for safety professionals? Well, we know we need to navigate certain issues in data-driven systems, right? Interoperability, things need to be able to interact and reliably communicate, and that's important both as they're connected and then over the system life. We'll see increased wireless communication certainly in the future, and there are complexities there, including electromagnetic immunity and compatibility in general. Rigor of the assessment of data-reliant devices and systems becomes increasingly important so that we make sure we get the right outcomes the right way. And then functional safety, which is the use of a coordination of software, firmware, and hardware to accomplish safety outcomes, has been used for many years. It's becoming increasingly important, and there are certainly enormous relevancies for the human race as we go forward in making sure that's done properly, and also having software safety updates. Next slide, please. So what do we need to do more in from a safety perspective as we go forward in these data-driven systems? There's a really compelling aspect that we'll need to navigate about delegation and acceptance of autonomy, right? Are we willing to give up the right to make that decision ourselves as it relates to some safety feature? And are we willing to delegate that to an autonomous entity? The interfaces and user cognition to make sure that we know what we're doing and we know all of the consequences of what we're doing in these data-driven systems, I think will be really challenging for us as safety professionals to navigate. The commissioning of machine learning, deep learning, and artificial intelligence features is going to be increasingly important. We certainly see it play out in ways that affect convenience, but I think we'll see more and more of that, from autonomous vehicles to other technologies, playing out in ways that may have profound safety consequences. Making sure we have the right access to data so that we have the ability to leverage that data and drive a better future can provide really wonderful new opportunities for us, but it also means we're going to be diligent about driving access to that data. And then cybersecurity is one that we want to do a little bit of a deeper dive in. Next slide, please. So we're all familiar with the concept of cyber attacks, but as we see more and more of this connected technology, the very fact that the technologies are connected means that they're vulnerable to cyber attacks. And so how does that happen? Well, there's these three concepts that are essential to a cyber attack, and the intersection point is where it becomes a reality. You have to have a threat, and that's the attacker, and it could be an individual, or it could be an organized effort, or it could be a nation. You have a flaw. There's some way for them to get in there, and it could be bad code, for example, or other things. And then there's the opportunity for that to be exploited. And when those three things intersect, that's when you have a cyber attack. And as we go forward with all of these interconnected devices that will have increasing aspects of safety related functionality, making sure we have the rigor of that infrastructure being protected from cyber attacks will be increasingly important for all of us. Next slide, please. So let's take a peek at the smart infrastructure of the future. And some of these things are definitely being built now, but we see this really playing out across Industry 4.0 and digital factories, logistics and supply chain, again, with more of a focus on drone deliveries and autonomous vehicles in the future. We see certainly a tremendous move toward e-mobility on a global scale. Energy management is important. We'll talk a little bit more about that soon. And smart buildings are increasingly becoming important as we've continued to drive toward this intelligent infrastructure. Next slide, please. So let's take a little bit of a peek at energy, because it is so important to our future. And it's certainly close to my heart. We see here this tremendous focus on increasing energy. The OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, has 37 member countries. They're shown in blue. And so we see an increase in those countries' energy consumption. But reflecting those patterns that we saw in our previous view of global migration, we see the non-OECD countries really significantly driving up in energy consumption as the populations grow so dramatically. So this means we will need to continue to work more toward building a secure energy future. Right now, renewables are the fastest growing energy sector in most of the world, but they're still a low part of the overall energy portfolio, and it does require that we continue to focus on that. Next slide, please. But let's look at the art of the possible. May 15th, 2016, almost 5 years ago now, we saw a significant milestone. Germany, the first industrialized country, had its entire country's energy needs met by renewables. It was a result of the enormous commitment that Germany has made to renewable energy, both in terms